Join me as I take on the challenge of exploring every hidden corner of Fort Jesus in Mombasa and uncover its fascinating history. Did you know that Fort Jesus has stood for over 400 years, witnessing the rise and fall of empires in East Africa? Let's uncover its secrets. Hello everyone and welcome to Just Free Hands. In this video, we're exploring Fort Jesus in Mombasa, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that tells the story of Kenya's rich history and cultural heritage. Despite its significance, many people are unaware of the historical importance and stories hidden within the walls of Fort Jesus. Join me as we explore the architecture, the battles fought here, and the diverse cultures that have influenced the fort over the centuries. Fort Jesus is a historic fortress located in Mombasa, Kenya. It was built by the Portuguese between 1593 and 1596 to protect their trade route to India and their interests in East Africa. The fort is one of the most significant and well-preserved examples of the 16th century Portuguese military architecture, reflecting the design principles of Renaissance fortifications. The fort was designed by the Italian architect Giovanni Battista Cairati, who was in the service of the Portuguese crown. Cairati's design followed the principles of Renaissance military architecture with a focus on geometric shapes, thick walls, and defensive structures. Fort Jesus is shaped like a man, with the head pointing towards the sea and the feet towards the land. The fort has a quadrilateral plan with 4 bastions at the corners and thick walls made of coral stone. The walls were designed to withstand cannon fire, and the fort's strategic position on a coral ridge provided a commanding view of the surrounding area. The fort was built to protect the Portuguese port and their trade routes in the Indian Ocean. It was intended to serve as a stronghold against the Ottoman Empire and local Swahili rulers who opposed Portuguese influence in the region. The fort remained under Portuguese control for much of the 17th century. It was a key military and administrative center for the Portuguese in East Africa, serving as a base for their operations along the coast.
Only for 1 week. Alikuja akasettle hapa juu alikuwa anatafuta the sea to India. So alipitia Zanzibar. So tunajua hizo monsoon, tunajua
Monsoon winds, yeah.
Ndio zilimlead hadi huko.
Okay, akona sail ship.
Alikuwa na ship.
Okay.
So unajua kitambo kulikuwa kuna njia.
Yeah.
So zilimlead hapa, alikuja akasettle hapa only for 1 week.
Okay.
After kusettle hapa for only 1 week, the local people from here didn't compare. Tunajua kama was an explorer.
Yes.
So explorer alikuwa na maswali mengi.
Yes.
Alikuwa anataka kujua kuhusu
anaishi aje,
anakaaje nini kuhusu bibi nani, ilikuwa mwamba. So anaendelea kuuliza tu. So people hawakumpenda. So he went back to Malindi. In Malindi, there is where he built the first church. Tunajua simshengo na Malindi. The first church and the Vasco da Gama pillar. So after kujenga hizo stuff mbili, we went back to Portugal.
Okay.
So akamwambia king wa Portugal amona place nzuri ambao anaweza kajenga kama military base.
Yes.
So aliposema hivyo, najua the Portuguese have one architecture mzuri. So they went back to Italy.
Yes.
Walituma na king wa ende Italy, wakapatia Giovanni Battista. So the guy alipatiwa instruction. This thing was to be ilikuwa ijengwe kama msalaba.
So, cross, yeah.
Remember,
the cross.
Mombasa, city Mombasa ilikuwa inaitwa Mombasa. Mombasa actually changed. This ilikuwa inaitwa Mvita. In the head, this one is the captain's balcony.
Okay.
So here is where the captain alikuwa anapenda kukaa.
Yes.
The captain's balcony was located here because remember, ukienda Old Town utaambia kuna Newport na kuna Old Port.
Okay.
Yeah. The Old Port iko huko chini, ndio. The Newport iko huko. So actually the Newport ili change juu the water from this side started being shallow. So unajua meli hizi pita kwa nani maji shallow. Haiwezi. So ikachangiwa ikaenda huko huko Newport.
Okay.
The Old Port ilikuwa huko. So when the captain was here,
yes,
he could easily monitor the ship that were coming in and out. Remember, the main reason they wanted to abolish slave trade. Na kulikuwa hakuna njia nyingine ya meli kuingia na kutoka. Njia nyingine ya usafiri ilikuwa tu ni moja, kutumia meli maji. So this hapa ndo mali captain alikuwa anapenda kukaa. And actually this place iko na breeze tamu. Hapa. Sasa ndo maana captain alikuwa anapenda kukaa. So this one is the head.
In 1696, Fort Jesus was besieged by Omani forces, marking the beginning of a long and brutal conflict. The siege lasted for nearly 3 years, during which time the Portuguese defenders suffered from starvation and disease. In 1698, the fort finally fell to the Omanis, who took control of Mombasa and the surrounding region. The Omani Navy primarily used traditional Arabian-style ships known as dhows. Dhows are wooden vessels with distinctive triangular sails. They were well suited for the monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean, making them ideal for long-distance voyages and naval expeditions. The Omanis were particularly interested in the rich resources of East Africa, including ivory, gold, and slaves. These commodities were highly prized in Arabian markets and beyond. The barter system allowed them to acquire these goods by exchanging them for goods such as textiles, metalware, dates, incense, and weapons. This room was once the Portuguese magazine. It was blown up by a Portuguese soldier on the 13th of December 1698 when the fort was captured by Arabs from Oman. Later, the Arabs repaired it, but they kept their gunpowder elsewhere. The gunpowder storage rooms, also known as magazines, were typically located in well-protected and strategically significant areas within the fort. In Fort Jesus, these rooms were likely positioned in places that were less vulnerable to direct enemy attacks or accidental explosions, possibly within the thicker walls of the fort. Gunpowder storage rooms were designed with safety in mind. The walls of these magazines were often thicker than other parts of the fort to contain any accidental explosion. The rooms were usually vaulted to add structural strength and reduce the risk of collapse. In the late 19th century, as European powers expanded their influence in Africa, the British took control of Mombasa and Fort Jesus. The fort was used as a barracks and later as a prison during the British colonial rule. Although Fort Jesus was primarily built to defend against naval threats, it also had to contend with attacks from the land. The southern and western walls of the fort, which faced inland, were also fortified with cannons to repel land-based assaults. Thick walls of Fort Jesus provided platforms for mounting cannons. These walls were designed to absorb and deflect cannonballs fired by attackers, while the cannons positioned on top could be used to fire down on advancing troops or ships. The height advantage provided by the walls meant that defenders could fire at longer ranges and with greater accuracy. The fort's elevation and the strategic positioning of its cannons provided commanding views of both the harbor and the surrounding land, allowing for early detection of enemy forces and giving the defenders time to prepare. By focusing fire on these choke points, the defenders maximized the effectiveness of the artillery. The larger cannons at Fort Jesus were likely used for long-range bombardment, particularly against ships at sea. These cannons had the power to inflict significant damage on wooden hulls and were crucial in maintaining control over the harbor. In many coastal communities, seashells were not just decorative but also had various practical uses. They were sometimes used as currency in certain cultures, for ornamentation, in traditional medicine, or as tools. Fort Jesus has endured centuries of exposure to the elements, warfare, and various forms of human activity. As a result, signs of wear and tear are evident throughout the structure, reflecting its long and tumultuous history.
Oh, no. Hapa hiyo ndio tower, part of it.
It's only watching tower.
Yeah.
The kitchen will have included large open fireplaces or stone ovens where wood or charcoal fires could be used to prepare food. These cooking areas will have been central to the kitchen's function, designed to handle the preparation of large quantities of food. Adequate ventilation will have been crucial. The British installed cannons at Fort Jesus, some of which remain on display today, serving as historical artifacts that provide insight into the fort's later defensive role. Fort Jesus offers a variety of spaces for events, including open courtyards, bastions with views of the sea, and indoor museum spaces. When planning an event, it's important to choose the space that best suits the size and nature of your event.
Morning, yes.
So Friday, Saturday.
Okay.
And it's just video kulikuwa na events za Wahindi.
Okay. Well.
The Portuguese built this cistern in 1603 because the people of Old Town were not friendly to them and were not very cooperative in allowing the Portuguese to collect water from their wells. The cistern collected water from roofs of the chapel, the barracks, and other buildings. The cistern is 17 meters or 56 feet deep, with sides measuring 6 meters by 6 meters.
Yes.
The Portuguese were surrounded. So walipokuwa surrounded, the Arabs were outside together with the British. As the Arabs moved in, they believed that this well was actually poisoned. So they came behind.
Oh. Oops.
Sasa walikuwa the Portuguese wana vimezibwa.
Yeah.
So when they were surrounded inside,
The discovery of whale bones washed into the River Tana and their subsequent transport to Fort Jesus is a notable event in the fort's history. The whale bones were found washed into the River Tana, which is one of Kenya's major rivers. The bones likely became lodged in the riverbed or banks, either due to natural processes like erosion or because of marine activity. Once discovered, the bones were transported to Fort Jesus. This transport will have been a significant logistical task, reflecting the importance placed on these finds by those who recovered and relocated them. The whale bones are a testament to the rich marine life in the Indian Ocean. They provide evidence of the type of whales that once frequented the waters of the East African coast and contribute to understanding the region's marine biodiversity. The captain's house at Fort Jesus is a notable structure within the fort, reflecting its historical significance during the periods when it was used as a military and administrative center. The captain's house served as the residence for the commanding officer or captain of the fort. This officer was responsible for overseeing the fort's operations, including its military, administrative, and logistical functions. During the Portuguese occupation of 1593 to 1698 and later the Omani control from 1698 to 1728, the captain's house was a key part of the fort's administrative complex. It housed the fort's command staff and played a central role in the day-to-day management of the fort.
Okay.
So this one is the captain's house.
Oh, I could remember that.
The captain.
Oh.
The captain's house was designed to reflect the importance of its occupant. It typically included spacious rooms for living and working with features that provided comfort and functionality. The architecture often incorporated elements suited to the tropical climate, such as high ceilings and large windows for ventilation. The interior of the captain's house likely included living quarters, an office space, and areas for receiving visitors. Furnishings will have been relatively modest but functional, with an emphasis on practicality for military and administrative tasks.
So this one is the third passage, the passage of steps.
Okay.
So actually this place ilikuwa open. Lakini nikienda kuangalia hivi, nikaona imezibwa.
Oh, used to be open.
The passage of steps at Fort Jesus is a significant feature within the fort's architecture. It connects various areas such as the barracks, storage rooms, and administrative sections. It typically features a series of steps or stairs, often built into the fort's thick coral stone walls. These steps were designed to facilitate movement between the different levels of the fort, enabling access to various parts of the structure. The passage was crucial for military operations within the fort. It allowed troops and officers to move quickly between levels, which was essential during sieges or emergencies. The design of the passage of steps reflects the strategic need for the fort. It provides access to key areas such as gun emplacements, command centers, and living quarters, contributing to the fort's overall functionality and defense capabilities. Careful. 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 And now let's go. Yeah. That's it.
These ones are Arabic words. So walikuwa kama Wakristo. Wakristo wanachukua some Bible verses. Bible verses wanaweka mahali hivyo hivyo.
Yes.
So that one ilikuwa inamaanisha if you have some bad intentions, uje hapo ulikuwa usifike. So kama unaona hivi.
Yes. Okay.
Simplifies the sign of unity. You know, the Arabs are actually Muslims. Muslims are all invented. Walikuwa wanaombaga pamoja kila mtu anaenda pamoja. So that is the sign of unity. So actually that room, that room was the one that was used to sign the treaty between the British and the
Now, what time is this? Like 16, 1700? 16 something, okay.
In the 16th century.
Okay.
So this one is the place that we used to send the first sheet.
Okay. Yes, please. After you.
The treaty between the Portuguese and the Omani Arabs, which marked a significant moment in the history of Fort Jesus, was signed in the fort itself. Specifically, the treaty was signed in the audience chamber or governor's house within the fort. This treaty was signed in 1631 between the Portuguese and the Sultan of Oman, which was a significant event as it marked a temporary resolution of conflicts between the two powers. The agreement was part of a broader series of negotiations and treaties that reflected the shifting power dynamics in the Indian Ocean region. This room was used for formal meetings and negotiations. It would have been a suitable setting for the signing of treaties due to its importance in administrative and diplomatic functions. The room is characterized by its grand architecture and was designed to accommodate high-level discussions and events.
Like the Sultan of Mombasa.
Okay.
So that one was their weapon, that one was their gun.
Go in the center with the box. Go in the box. One of the box. You put your.
Those ones were the British, those ones were the Arabs. That one,
okay.
This one is called actually, it is called the Masjid.
The inscription room is situated in an area of the fort that was used for various purposes over the centuries. It contains a collection of inscriptions and graffiti created by various occupants and visitors over the centuries. These writings include names, dates, and other markings made by soldiers, traders, and travelers who passed through the fort. The inscriptions provide valuable history and cultural insights into the people who lived and worked at the fort. The inscriptions reflect the diverse history of Fort Jesus, which saw periods of Portuguese, Omani, and British control. They offer a unique glimpse into the lives and experiences of those who were stationed or visited the fort. These writings are considered important historical artifacts that contribute to the understanding of the fort's rich and varied history. The room is preserved as part of Fort Jesus Museum, where the inscriptions are protected and displayed. The rooms serve as a point of interest for visitors, showcasing the historical layers of the fort through the personal marks left by its inhabitants. In summary, Fort Jesus is not just a historical monument. It is a testament to the rich tapestry of cultures that shape Kenya today. If you enjoyed this journey through history, share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to check out our other videos in the channel.